It is 15 minutes before 1900 hours here in London. You're listening to Midori House with me, Tom Edwards. Now, earlier this month, the renowned International Centre for Photography in New York celebrated the work by father and son, the photographer Thomas Roma and his son, the writer Giancarlo. Together, they've come up with the book, The Waters of Our Time. It's composed of over 140 of Thomas's photographs spanning most of his career and a fictional text from Giancarlo. I'm delighted to say Thomas and Giancarlo both join us now from our studio in New York. Thomas and Giancarlo, welcome to Midori House. Great to speak with you. Leafing through the book, I feel the book it really seems to be about sort of memory. It's a very personal account, and yet it's also a fictional account. Is that sort of a balance that you were both trying to strike with the book? Thomas, perhaps first of all.
Okay, well, the interesting thing about photographs, especially photographs that are taken of the world as it is, in other words, not staged or set up, create their own fictions. I mean, after all, the photograph is a unique object and not what was before the camera. So a photograph already starts with this idea of being nonfiction, but set in, taken out of context, that is actually a fictional fact. And so arranged in the book, the way I did it, and handed to Giancarlo, I think he was free to create his own fictional version of what the pictures might be suggesting.
Right, I got the book, when I got the book it was just the pictures and white space, and the only precondition that I was given was to make the narrator an elderly female narrator. So the idea to make it sort of a reflection on her life in Brooklyn and even a reflection on how she was reflecting was sort of a natural choice given that she was an elderly woman.
And just tell me a little more, Giancarlo, then about your creative process, because it's interesting. I guess in some ways that's a very liberating process. In other ways, it's almost quite restrictive. Tell me what the creative experience, I guess, was like bringing The Waters of Our Time through to the printed page.
Well, it was the way we always thought of it was like a movie in reverse, where the pictures came first, and then the writing is like the script to a silent film or something like that. So it was actually a unique challenge in that there's not that many projects like this and not much to prepare me for it. But the way I did it was I structured the book into 6 or 7 pages based on what I felt was the tone of the pictures in that section. And I sort of tried to write along with the tone and let the pictures communicate to me what the story was going to be. So the analogy I always use is like a blues guitar player soloing over a chord progression that was given to me. And as a 20-year-old writing about an elderly woman thinking back on her life, and there's a love interest that comes in and out that she's thinking about, it was quite liberating, because those are, thoughts about death and memory are things that, people my age aren't really, quote unquote, allowed to think about. So putting myself in that voice was a welcome experience, actually.
And Thomas, let me ask you about, I know your interest stretching back to the photographer Roy de Carava and the poet Langston Hughes, their sort of collaborative book going right back to the 50s. Tell me, is this the idea of collaboration in that way, has that long been something that's fascinated you throughout your work?
Oh, yes, indeed. Roy de Carava was a friend of mine. And, of course, he's no longer with us. But what's interesting to me is I loved that book when I first saw it in 1971 or 72, and he disowned it. He thought the writing was overwhelming his photographs. It was the only way he could get the book, get his pictures published. And I always felt kind of bad about that, because I loved the book, and I knew that as a collaboration, it was a stronger object, a thing in the world, that the book went out in the world independent of what he hoped the pictures would be about. And I saw his book as a vessel. So our book, for listeners, is the exact size and shape with the exact number of photographs and the exact
font, I'll add.
Yeah, even the graphic design is lifted right off that 1955 book that he disowned. So I saw the form of the book as a vessel, And I filled my end of it, and then I handed it off to Giancarlo, and I literally said, fill in the white spaces where there's no picture.
And Giancarlo, let me ask you about that, because I know you're a writer, you're a musician as well. You understand lots of these different mediums. Tell me about how you hope readers or viewers, I guess you would almost say, will engage with this book, because it's a small format book. It does have this incredible intimacy. What do you hope the relationship between the reader and the book will be?
Well, first of all, the text of the book starts on the cover, so it's something that's sort of, like you said, the intimacy is pretty immediate right from the beginning. But there's also, I should add, a song that runs through the book. It's a song called Follow, most famously sung by Richie Havens. And those lyrics, along with my text, and of course the pictures, run throughout the book. So there, in a way, is a lot going on in the book. And in another way, it's really meant to feel sort of like a diary, a photo album. It's meant to feel personal, almost like in the way you keep a journal and you put, a scrap of, a quote you liked, and then an entry about your day, and then a picture. It's really meant to feel personal. So I would hope that when people interact with it, the feeling they get is that they've read or seen something like this before. It's just someone else's, in a way.
It does certainly capture those memories so beautifully. The book is called The Waters of Our Time. It's by Thomas Roma and Giancarlo T. Roma. It's published by Powerhouse Books. Giancarlo and Thomas in New York, thank you both very much indeed for joining us here on Midori House.